Hello, this is Dr. Mercola, and you know many people struggle with not having enough energy in the morning and use coffee for a quick energy boost. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. The reason they use coffee is because it contains caffeine, as do most sodas. Now, caffeine is in fact a drug. In fact, it's the most commonly used drug in the world. And I believe, as do many other experts, that when you rely on using a drug that only treats the symptoms, especially for the long term, it's likely that you're going to create more problems than you solve. And that's one of the reasons why I believe it's best to seek to avoid using caffeine as a substitute for boosting your energy. Now, there are times, of course, when you can use it therapeutically. In fact, I use it myself, even though I don't particularly care for the taste of coffee. And I use it about once a year or so when I travel over 4 or 5 time zones. And I typically want to fall asleep about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Of course, it's far too early. So what I'll do is drink some coffee and seek to stay awake until I reach my normal bedtime for that time zone, which is typically around 9 or 10 o'clock. At that time, I'll take some melatonin and I fall asleep. And it really eliminates jet lag. It's really a phenomenal approach. Now, you can also use coffee as a support with exercise, and it may help you work out harder and improve physiological benefits. And that is, but you only want to use it before exercise, and not adding any sugar, and of course, only organic coffee, as it's one of the most heavily polluted products and is loaded with pesticides. So unless you're using it therapeutically, it would probably be wise to consider going off of it. And the best way to do that is, of course, to improve your body system to produce energy naturally. Now, the specifics are likely different for everyone, but there are some general principles that you could consider following. And I have put together my best recommendations for doing this in my nutritional meal plan, which has dozens of pages that guide you in how to optimize your health specifically. And you can get it for free by clicking on the link on the right side of our home page. It's divided into 3 different sections, one for beginners, one for novices, and one for intermediates and advanced, so that you can start wherever you feel comfortable. Now, if you would like something printed, you can get a copy of my Take Control of Your Health book in the store that we have on our site. But briefly, let me highlight some of the principles. These include eating the right food for your nutritional type, engaging in appropriate amounts of exercise, typically peak fitness type of exercises, and taking care of the emotional challenges that you have. And you clearly want to drink plenty of water instead of sodas and fruit juices, and as these are solid and powerful ways that you can dramatically improve your energy systems. And when you do want to wean yourself from coffee, let me give you a warning, because especially if you're drinking more than 20 ounces of caffeinated beverages daily, or coffee or soda, you want to go off slowly, because remember, caffeine is a drug. If you go off of it too quickly, you will experience irritability and typically a pretty severe headache. This is through the caffeine withdrawal. And you may want to decrease gradually to avoid this over a 3-week period, so you can wean yourself slowly off of the caffeine. So when you are successfully caffeine-free, you'll want to replace your caffeinated beverages with a healthy substitute. Maybe some hot or cold, organic, naturally caffeine-free tea. You can also try a simple vitamin. And what might that vitamin be? Well, interestingly, there's a supplement called vitamin B12, which works really quickly and is enormously useful for increasing your energy. Vitamin B12 plays a key role in the normal functioning of your brain and nervous system, and actually for the formation of your blood. When you're deficient in B12, your blood cells become very large and you develop what is called pernicious anemia. And now the B12 that you normally use is involved in the metabolism of every cell in your body. It especially affects your body's ability to synthesize and regulate DNA, and also helps produce or utilize fatty acids for energy production. Now, the reason this substitute of B12 for caffeine may work really well is that many people are deficient in it. And so I'd like to outline some groups who that are deficient, because you might fall into one of them. Now, it's important to understand that vitamin B12 is the largest vitamin that we know of, and because of its large size, it's very difficult to absorb orally. because physically it is the largest of all vitamins and does not passively diffuse from your gut into your bloodstream like most all vitamins and minerals do. So your body makes this very special protein in your stomach called intrinsic factor. And this intrinsic factor actually combines with vitamin B12. It slides down your gut into your intestines and is actually absorbed at the end of your small intestine or your terminal ileum. This intrinsic factor B12 complex, and it's actively absorbed. So, and then from the absorption there, it goes right into your bloodstream. And without that intrinsic factor, when you swallow oral vitamin B12 supplements in a pill or even in your food, it just goes right out of you, right into your stool. You just don't absorb any of the B12. So it's important to understand this because what happens as you start to age, especially if you are leading an unhealthy lifestyle at about 40, 50 years old or so, the amount of intrinsic factor that your stomach is able to produce progressively decreases with your age and your health. So your likelihood of developing a vitamin B12 deficiency also increases. Now there's another group that commonly suffers from B12 deficiency, and those are people who choose to avoid all animal proteins or choose a vegan lifestyle. Vegans, because they avoid all animal products, because they're not getting B12 because it's primarily found in animal products. And fortunately, it takes a number of years to develop this deficiency because most of our livers have stores of about 5 to 7 years before they run out. But if you do run out of B12, you're at very high risk of developing serious nerve damage or even blindness. Now, another group that would be at risk for B12 deficiency are those who are already having trouble sleeping because vitamin B12 is a cofactor that's important for the production of melatonin. And melatonin is produced by your pineal gland and is really crucial for a good night's sleep, and it's also helpful for radically decreasing your risk of cancer. So it's far better for your body to produce its own melatonin with enough vitamin B12 stores than to take a supplement of melatonin. Now another point to consider though is even if you're eating large amounts of animal protein where the vitamin B12 is, if you're not making this intrinsic factor, then it just becomes virtually impossible to absorb that vitamin B12. This is why many people go to their physician's office to get that as a supplement. But their physician actually prescribes an injectable form of B12, and that is what goes directly into the bloodstream as it bypasses the need for intrinsic factor and then being absorbed in your gut. So many people who have actually had their intestines removed for inflammatory bowel disease have to do this the rest of their lives. Now, for some time now, we've offered a vitamin B12 supplement that eliminates the need for injecting it. It comes as a spray, and we call it the vitamin B12 Energy Booster. It's in a convenient spray, and you just actually spray it under your tongue. The reason you do that is that there are many capillaries under your tongue, and when you hold it there for about 20 seconds or so, the B12 can easily become directly absorbed into your bloodstream because it just passes right into the blood vessels. So, and once that happens, you get an increase in the B12 levels and a pretty rapid, most people notice a pretty rapid increase in their energy levels. This is the same way some drugs work sublingually, like nitroglycerin, because they're delivered under the tongue, and it seems to be very effective. Now, it's also important to note that there are several types of vitamin B12 molecules. The traditional type that is conventionally used is one called cyanocobalamin, and that's the one that almost all the prescription injections are. It's also the form of vitamin B12 that we previously used in our sprays because it was safe and effective, and there's a very large supported studies that suggest that it's going to be useful. However, we recently made a shift to use what we believe to be a better form of B12, and that is methylcobalamin. So if you struggle with the need for an energy boost, you can consider the use of vitamin B12 rather than coffee in the morning or for a quick energy boost in the afternoon. It's important to maximize your own body's internal resources to improve energy naturally, because when you address the foundational causes, you're decreasing and minimizing the risk for developing any type of chronic complications. So hopefully, this information is another useful and powerful tool to help you to continue to take control of your health.